Right, we're ready, Carolyn.
Yeah, we're alive now, Chair.
Right, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the West Neighbourhood Forum. The forum is made up of elected members of the council. I am Councillor Quinn and I am the chair of the West Neighbourhood Forum. This is a public meeting and as such, this meeting is being webcast to the public. Members of the public watching the meeting can submit questions to the forum throughout the meeting using the form on the right or below the webcast, depending on your device. At the end of each item, the forum will hear questions submitted. When submitting your questions, please leave your name and the agenda item or subject matter that your question relates to. Only questions relating to items on the agenda will be accepted. You can find the agenda below, agenda available to download next to the webcast. The clerk tonight is Caroline Eaton, who will be receiving questions submitted by the public. We'll go on to the agenda. Item 1, apologies.
Yes, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillors Anne and Barry Holland, Brenda Warrington, Councillor Jones, Councillor Ritchie.
Right, thank you. Right, so we're going over to item 4 for Tom. Or as the chief of...
She's trying to join, but yes, happy to start with that, Chair. If you
if you do yours, Tom, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just going to share a presentation, if that's okay. Okay, so so thanks for your time, everyone. So obviously the borough strategy you will have heard about, and work on this started back in October with the cabinet and the community sessions, which were primarily a listening exercise for members and residents to have their say on key issues and ideas for improvement in their areas. And since then, we've obviously done a lot of other bits of listening through multiple community meetings and surveys, obviously to get us to this point. So this slide sets out the purpose of the borough strategy, which I'm sure I don't need to spell out to you, but suffice to say, we had these ideas of collaborative working, improving outcomes, and making better use of resources in mind when designing the approach. Being a partnership document, we've had to work with a variety of wide group of stakeholders to explore the evidence we collected and formulate some priorities for consideration. So the names and organisations see on the screen were the ones that we worked with in pulling the draft content together. And those partners were part of a wider stakeholder group, which comprised lots of different agencies, businesses, third sector partners, who've all been involved in reviewing the data, considering how that applies to place in our 9 towns and the strategic context in which we're operating. So this is the proposed vision and the sort of headline priority themes. So obviously people, place, prosperity are very sort of high level themes, and that provides that kind of flexibility to ensure partners and residents can identify with them and support them. And it was clear from the start that although this is a borough strategy, it's the 9 towns that people identify with. We've mentioned this before on plenty of occasions, and they understand that better. So we wanted that sort of clear marriage of strategic vision and place-based delivery to be clear, so that residents feel it talks to them. And I think we also need to acknowledge the role of the role and opportunity that being under the auspices of Greater Manchester and the combined authority provides. And linked to that is the regeneration work that you obviously all be aware that is underway throughout the borough. And we wanted to ensure that the strategy makes that clear. It's very clear that it's a positively focused document, and in its message, and all partners are very clear on that. So this slide highlights that the priorities sit under each of the people, place, and priority themes are being developed from a comprehensive evidence base. So both from the feedback that we got from yourselves and residents through the consultation, but also from the data that describes some of the issues we know that the borough has. So the slide has a few examples here, which I'm not going to go through, but just to give us a snapshot. And this slide again reiterates the point that with some of the findings from the various bits of engagement that we undertook, so these are the sort of headline top few things that came out of what people are proud of and what they thought could be better. And then these next 3 slides, again, under these people, place and prosperity, provide specific ambitions under each of those themes. Again, they are very high level aspirations, so all partners that are part of within Tameside can subscribe to. So the people ones are about clean, safe neighbourhoods, good employment and growing economy, and then also living longer through support and information and general quality of public services. And that's delivered in conjunction with communities. With place, as you'd expect, it's all about clean and safe spaces, improved travel, a good housing offer, in enhancing green spaces and responding to climate challenges and celebrating that civic pride. And finally, prosperity covers growing the economy through attracting investment and supporting business, which in turn will lead to more good quality jobs, which coupled with better skilled education and digital access to improve life chances for everyone. And then the next 3 slides identify a series of success measures, which, again, under each of the people, place and prosperity themes. The yellow bits you see there are intentional. We're still working with partners to identify some appropriate ones. So these are the ones that come under people. Again, I'm not going to go through them all. Place, and then these are the success measures for prosperity, but hopefully you've got all this information sent through. And then finally, in terms of oversight of the strategy, will be through a newly formed Tameside Together partnership, which obviously comprise the partner organisations detailed at the start and more. Exactly who is to be determined, and obviously would welcome views on that. And as the slide says, a key function being to track progress of the outcome, success measures, provide updates on contributory delivery activities, and arguably most importantly, facilitating joint working. So we'll produce an annual position statement on progress, which I think is proportionate for a 5-year plan with long-term outcomes identified. And then in terms of next steps, a draft is going to Cabinet next week for consideration, and then we'll go out for further consultation with yourselves and others. And we're looking to try and pull together perhaps a dedicated member briefing around this in the coming weeks on top of these forum sessions, just to capture any further views. So that's it for me, Chair, on that.
All right, thank you for that, Tom. Have we got any questions?
So yeah, Tom's experienced this last night because I watched some of last night's, and the same. Can you hear me, sir? I don't know. Yeah. The same point can be raised when you look at all them, and I know for a fact quite a lot of them names that appear who are part of the consultation group in there, working group, don't live anywhere near Tameside. In that sense, so there's a number of them don't live in Tameside and just come into it and then go home. And I do think, and I would echo what was stated at Saley Bridge last night, there is a complete lack of councillor involvement within the 9 towns. So I would just make that statement rather than go into it in great detail. There was a big, long discussion. If you looked at last night's meeting, exactly on the same issue regarding this item and the other further item 3, I think it was. But as I say, I've looked at them, and I know Jackie Moore's does, some do, but as we're a unique 9 towns, and we are different. You know that, Sue, and I know. Even in Drawls and East and West, there is difference in the politics and everything else. But we are one town, and that's the same. In Aldershire has its own heritage and everything else, which is different than parts of Ashton and parts of Mosley or whatever. I'm not thinking, but so there's a complete lack of the strategy. I know they said, well, this is a working group, but we should have been involved, politicians from each ward or one from each town, with nominations. But even if it was the chairs, like yourself, Sue, involved in that, in the makeup of that, because I just think then it's an officer-led view of Tameside when we have a personal view of Tameside. And I think at least it should have been the chairs of the area forums should have been invited into that.
Right, thank you for that, Jed. Tom, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, so I suppose I would say that the Cabinet and Community sessions were the opportunity from our perspective for members to have their say on what they understand the issues to be. And the idea being that we would then take that information as the evidence, pull together some proposals for then further discussion in places like this and other sessions that we might have, which I don't think is an unusual way to do this kind of strategic forum, but I appreciate your point, Councillor Cooney.
Tom, based on what you've just said then, what specific item did you take from the meeting in Droylsden? Now, I might be putting you on the spot, so Jed, I don't really know. I wasn't part of that collating of the information, and I understand that, so I'm not trying to trip you up.
Yeah, well, the all the feedback from every Cabinet and Community session is published online, so you can see them broken down by the different ones. I don't know if Droyle's off the top of my head, but it's on the website there. And obviously, it's for the borough. The borough strategy is the borough as a whole, so it's all the information collated. So picking out any one area is probably not going to be that sort of symptomatic of everything that's in a borough strategy.
But you'd accept there's a lack of political involvement from the rank and file members, rather, no disrespect to the Cabinet, but from the rank and file members, which was the point of which was laboured last night, that the ordinary members, elected members, weren't involved in anywhere within that process. And I think that, and I'm not going to, as I said, hopefully it goes back from last night and then they relook at that. I certainly think that the chairs of the 3 area forums should have also been involved specifically when they've sat down as a working group. I'm on about the working group now. I'm on about specifically about the working group.
Yeah, take your point. I don't know if Emma wants to come in on that point or not. Obviously, I can see her hands raised, Chair.
Right. Emma?
Emma, are you on mute?
Yeah.
Rookie mistake. I was. Apologies. I was just saying, Councillor Quinn. I'm happy to respond immediately on that point, or leave it for Councillors Smith to respond first.
Right. Well, I'll take the councillors first, and I'll come back to you if that's okay.
Of course.
Right. Carolyn, who's first? Who's put their hands up?
We've got councillors Mike and Teresa Smith.
Right. Mike, Teresa.
Hi, Sue, it's me, thanks. So I think the Cabinet and the community events were great, and what really came across at each one is that each town is individual, and I think this way forward gives us the opportunity to celebrate that. And listening to people in the room, everyone I went to was really well attended by our residents. They were all saying the same thing. They wanted to be involved in the decision making. They were proud of where they lived and they wanted more involvement. And for me, this is definitely a way forward. I like the idea that we've also got our own budget to manage, that we've got our own dedicated officers. I think it's a really, really positive way forward. We've had these Zoom calls, which are great for us, but usually only really attended by, local councillors. And we want that engagement, don't we, from our public? We want everybody to be on this journey, making Tameside even better. And if I come back to you, Jed, if you don't mind, what are you hoping to see from this? I didn't watch this meeting last night, to be honest. There was other meetings, and for me, selfishly, my priority is my ward. So this was a meeting that was important to me. But I think it's going well. I think there has been engagement, and I think the most important engagement we've had is with our community, and really, really positive. And I also like the idea that for me in Ardenshire, we are different. You're right, Jed, we are different. We're a town that doesn't have a town centre. So for me, it's about how I can get my residents in and involved. And looking forward, this is the way to do it. but not just us, know that we've got a definite officer is going to offer us support all the way, is going to be our go-to person, which for me is a real step forward. But I think it's really interesting. It'd be good to hear what other councillors, or I don't know if there's any anybody else or any residents on this call, what do they think? Because it's about listening. If we're going to make a difference, we've got to listen. Thanks. Mike.
Right, is there any other councillors?
Did you want me to respond, Teresa? You asked me.
Go on, Jed.
I refer to the working group. Have a look at the working group, because this isn't just about the cabinet in the community. Read it, which I'm quite sure you have, but the working group, and then you look at membership of the working group. What I'm saying, Teresa, is, and you're right there, you actually agree in what I'm saying, these towns are unique in their own way. Having the chairs of the area meetings in the working group would have been logical. And that's the point that was being made last night. And I'm not having a go at the process, but I do think within this, I know someone said we're drawing up a strategy, so we'll just meet with the officers or the groups and what have you. The strategy needs to suit the political and local agenda. And I'm not saying that doesn't. And officers will say, well, we talked about crime and we talked about housing, we talked about that. But I'm sorry, I do think if we're saying that we're going down on to the ground floor, and I think it's right, don't get me wrong, I do think there needed to be an involvement within the working groups of some part of politician. And if you look at the working group, Teresa, they're not involved at all.
I think it's impossible to have everybody in the room, Jed, isn't it? And there has to be a
Teresa, I didn't ask for everyone in the room. I said
no. I'm not saying you did, Jed, but there has to be a starting point, doesn't there?
Yeah, and that's what at the starting point. At the starting point, Teresa, there's only 4 area chairs. We're not asking for the 57 councillors. What I'm saying is the area chair from here could have sat on it. The area chair from them could have sat on it. So I'm not asking for 57 councillors. There is no political involvement within the working group, the working party. That's what I'm saying. If you can show me that I'm wrong on that, I'll accept it. But I've looked at it, I looked at the list there, and I know some of them don't even live in Tameside. So they don't know the unique. Now, they know the areas that they're responsible for, right? But they don't, as you said, you don't actually have a town centre. Unless you're in Aldershot, there's no town centre. You know that as politicians. I'm not asking for 57 to be involved. I'm not asking for anything less than what they're promoting. I'm saying there should have been a political involvement within a working party.
Chair,
we are elected.
Chair, it's Councillor Boyle. Can I speak?
Hang on a minute, Laura. I
can't put my hand up, Chair.
Right. Well, Mike wants to come in as well. Be sharing the screen because otherwise it buffers. You see.
Right. Well, can I just say that the officers are going to be taking this, noting this, but if I can ask the councillors to be brief on this, because we don't want to be going over things that we've already discussed. Mike, if you want to come in.
Yeah, I take Jed's point, but I suppose in a way you could have the same argument, couldn't you? That if you, Chair, was to sit on this panel, you know everything about your ward and you know everything about Droylsden because you've been there for a long time. But with the greatest respect, you don't know anything about Denton. So it's you know I respect the fact that the chairs are there, but you know you could have. So I understand what Jed's saying. We should have political sort of use of it, but it's just how you do it. And I think it's like you say, it's work in progress, isn't it? So I think we can note what Jed's saying. I think and see how which is the best way to make sure we cover each area. You know.
Yeah, well, I think that's it, Mike. I think the officers are making a note of this, and we're in the early stages. Yeah. So it's a learning curve for us all. So it is, we've got to make sure that we get it right.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Sue.
All right. Thanks, Chair.
Right, Councillor Boyle, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I appreciate what Jed's saying, but in my view, there was political involvement, and like Teresa said, there was cabinet in the community where politicians were invited. the feedback from every cabinet in the community was brought towards this and considered when we're looking at drafting the borough plan. I'm quite sure there'll be further consultation on it where people can comment. And I think, you know, you've got to streamline it and get people's opinions, but you can't have everybody in the room, as Teresa said, and I agree that. And the fact that we'd have a named officer and a devolved budget, I think it's a fantastic thing to moving forward with progressive leadership.
No. Thank you for that, Councillor Boyle. Anybody else got their hands up?
Sue?
Yeah, Jed.
Can I just, Laura, I didn't say 57 councillors. So where the point is that we have loads there. So my point was...
No, Jed, but you did say that there's no political involvement, and there was political involvement.
Laura,
there has been political involvement.
Laura, if you look at the working group, right, the working group, which draws it up, you show me which politicians on that.
Because it's a tiered system when you're drafting a policy like this, and we had political involvement in the cabinet and the communities where everybody's invited to come along, and you've got to then collate all that information, and then it gets less and less in those meetings as you're drafting the policy. When that policy is drafted, and then I'm sure it will go out to consultation again for consideration.
It says working group, Laura. Does it not say working group? Is there any politician involved in there? And what I said, to make that easy, we have the chairs, at least the chairs, and I get Mike's point that Sue wouldn't necessarily know about Denton or whatever. So but I'm trying to say we're not going to have 57 on there.
But no, but I think there's been good prior political involvement.
There is a working group there, but there is a working group there without a single politician. Now, I accept as a strategy, we draw stuff and bring it out. Yeah, if we're talking about political future, if we're talking about political future and the way forward politically, then I think the word politician somewhere should have been in that working group. We're not talking about your cabinet in the community. We're not talking about the other parts. There's a working group on there, and if you look at it, there's not one single politician. That's all. I talked about the working group, Laura. So if unless you're showing me that I was wrong,
I think the officers are guided by the results of the cabinet and the community and comments that are made in that, and they're guided on that.
Right. Well, Jed, you've got your point. You've got your point across. I'm sure the officers have made a note of it. So, have we got any other questions, Carolyn?
Nothing's come in from the public, Chair.
Right. Does Emma want to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I guess I just wanted to add some clarity. I think some members have already said this around process, because the working group has not been designed as a group to be seeking views. The working group has been a process to collate the views already collected, as other members have said, through the cabinet and community events and other data sources. I think the second point that I would make is that this process, this discussion that we're having this evening, is the opportunity for members to raise points with respect to their wards, to their towns. We've got the strategy document, which has already been stated, covers the whole of the borough, but we're really interested to collate, and we've had a clear steer from Cabinet to collate views based on the individual towns and forums views around the strategy. And I guess just to conclude this part of the discussion, it would be helpful if there are particular things from a town or neighbourhood forum perspective that you want to highlight in this strategy, which is either this is a priority for my area, you know, please make sure that as you move this strategy forward, this asset or this service or this issue is taken into consideration, or this community aspect is taken into consideration. This is the opportunity to do that. So I guess that member involvement and engagement took place at the beginning through the community forum and is taking place at this stage where the strategy is a draft and it's about to go out to consultation. But before it goes out to consultation, we would like to ensure that the views of members from each of the forum is involved in that, and then that can be brought to Cabinet as we go through that strategy consultation process. But but giving members the respect of not waiting to just respond in the consultation, but before we go out to consultation. So just wanted to make those points clear, and hopefully that's helpful, Chair.
Thank you for that, Emma. Right, have we got any other questions on item 4?
Nothing's coming from the public, Chair, and I don't see any other hands raised.
Right. Emma, do you want to do your item now, item 3? Evolving the neighbourhood forums.
Yes, absolutely. Very happy to do that, Chair. And apologies, if I may say so, for being late. I really struggled to connect to the meeting, but I'm here now, so all good. Okay, Tom, I'm working on the basis that there aren't slides for this item.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to check in on that. Thank you. So this paper on evolving the neighbourhood forum approach is very much about seeking views from all of the neighbourhood forums about their input to how the approach develops over this next period of time. And I think connecting to that last discussion, the council's cabinet, the administration are very keen to ensure that the neighbourhood forums have a greater role, have a greater involvement, and are able to contribute to the overall development of delivery in their areas and in their towns. So that's the kind of the framework, and this paper will be considered at Cabinet next week, and we're keen to feed in the views of the neighbourhood forums into the Cabinet deliberations prior to moving forwards. So I'll just run through the paper and sort of give you the key highlights. Hopefully you've already had a chance to read the report that covers this. So we do have some legislation that we're expecting arising from the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill, and that will have some guidance in it, some legislation in it around requirements of bringing decision making closer to residents. That isn't available for us yet, but it is being expected to be received over the next 6 to 12 months. And so really just to highlight to forum members that part of the reason why these proposals are set in that context of evolving is to enable any new legislation and guidance to be built into our approach as we move forwards. So in terms of the overall ambition for evolving those neighbourhood forums, the leadership of the council are very keen to ensure that neighbourhood forums have a much more proactive role and are able to advocate much more explicitly for their areas and for their towns. A number of short-term actions are being proposed, and I'll just go through those in a moment, but also the intention is to continue to evolve this, the approach, and very much feeding in the views of the forum members themselves so that it becomes a way of working that works for members and advocating for their wards and for their towns. But in the first instance, it's being proposed that in the short term, that we develop the current 4 neighbourhood forums structure to move from neighbourhood forums to community forums, explicitly structured around the 9 towns. Clearly, in an ideal world, you'd have 1 forum per town, but there needs to be a balance between the cost of implementing any proposals versus the ability to have that kind of strong representation. So we're not sort of finally settled on that at the moment. So we're really seeking views back from members. In the paper, you'll see that there are some groupings that are suggested, but your views are really important in informing that, with that overall caveat that the cost of support to a large number of forums is clearly going to be a challenge within our current budget for the neighbourhood forums. For forums to have a say in funding priorities, and that starts with the involvement of the forums with the Pride in Place Impact Fund 26-27, and so making sure that through the different calls on for that investment fund, that impact fund, that the neighbourhood forums can put forward, particularly with their connections with community groups, around what is needed in the different places, reminding you that the Pride in Place Impact Fund is a capital fund. That forums are cast as wider partnership meetings, because often when we debate things relevant to communities and neighbourhoods, they aren't simply council issues. There is an intersection across police, health, VC, FSE, and other relevant housing providers. So propose to make that change. That there is a lead named council director for each of the 9 towns. And I think this is really important, so that you've got a single point of contact from a senior officer point of view that can own the kind of the cross-cutting issues that are arising from forums. So making sure that for each of the towns, there's a real explicit connection into the council and therefore across to the different services. A couple of other points around administration for the meetings through democratic services and policy, engaging through the proposed Tameside engagement strategy to make sure that we've got a consistent way of engaging activity across the council, so there's consistency there, and also ensuring there's appropriate communications activity to launch the new approach with key messages and feedback. And then I'll just move on to the wider principles around frequency of meetings. Again, there's a balance between the number of meetings, how often they meet, and the associated resource and costs associated with that. And also thinking about rotating venues. And therefore, if different towns are covered by different forums, community forum, then you might want to move to different venues to make accessibility to the meetings easier for individual community members, and actually agendas might want to be shaped in that way as well. But again, that's something for consideration. And then in the terms of the longer term ambition, a full devolving of funding to community forums. So that work will progress during 26-27, again with community neighbourhood forum views being sought, ready for implementation from April 2027-28. Looking at developing additional capacity in the form of a neighbourhood officer role, who can be dedicated capacity, leading on liaison and connecting activity between lead officers, members, and delivery. And then finally, which I've already mentioned, reference to the English Devolution and Community Empowerment Bill once that's finalised and in force. So that's the specific proposals to evolve the neighbourhood forum approach that we're seeking your views on. And I'll just move on then to the Pride in Place Impact Fund. And you'll be aware, as I've just mentioned, of this fund. It's a time-limited 100% capital programme fund to deliver visible improvements in communities to rebuild community pride. Cabinet has already considered the overall principles for this in January, has allocated a small proportion of the total sum, and those details are set out in the report. The report also sets out the focus and the objectives around this fund, which is set for us by government around community spaces, public spaces, and high street and town centre revitalisation. Sets out the terms around the geography, and in being clear that the programme would need to be evidence-led, locally shaped. So clearly this discussion is really important in terms of the neighbourhood forum inputting into what that expenditure may relate to, and what the priorities might be for particular neighbourhood forums and particular towns, and also have that clarity around decision making, so recommendations made to Cabinet for approval. The report goes on to set out the detail of the 3 rounds of calling for projects. The first, which started in January and is now complete, with the existing £110,000 already approved. This second round during this period to the end of March. So again, any ideas from the forum, from forum members around schemes that they want to put forward. And then a third call from the 1st of June to the 31st of July. So plenty of opportunity to be inputting ideas and promoting and sponsoring ideas from community groups. So that covers off the paper chair. The recommendations are in section 5. And so feedback, please, on the proposals to evolve the neighbourhood forums, both on the short-term actions and the longer-term ambition, views on the suggested groupings of the future forums, and also views around the promoting the funding opportunity, bringing ideas forward in this current round and the third round of calls for projects. So very happy to answer any questions, Chair.
Right, thank you for that, Emma. I welcome this report because the neighbourhoods, at first they were okay, but as time's gone on, because we've the members decided they wanted ours on Zoom, and it hasn't worked. It quite clearly hasn't worked, and so I welcome them going in person, but I also welcome the fact that we're going to have an officer, and we're going to have a budget, and we're going to have a say in where the money is spent in our areas. So I welcome this. So
Right,
thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any questions from any councillors?
Councillor Newton has his hand raised, Chair.
Right, Councillor Newton.
Yeah, thanks very much. I agree with you, actually, Councillor Quinn, that it's been obvious for some time that these forums haven't worked at all, and it's often a case that we receive presentations we've already had or quick updates that we're already aware of, and I think as well the fact that we've gone several months without a meeting is demonstrative of the little impact that it has. So I really welcome this, and this is a much better solution. What I would say is that just looking at the proposals and the notes, I think I'd go back to district assemblies personally. I'd return to the word district assemblies. Everyone remembers them and they worked well. I think the concept of a forum unfortunately has failed. I would question a little bit to the membership of the forums. There's a lot of reference to voluntary groups. I think in Denton we've got something like 40 or 50 different volunteer groups. I'm not sure how that would work in practice. But I think the rest of the proposals are pretty good. I think the groupings are perfect. I think the district assemblies were groups like that, actually. And then just in respect to the Pride in Place Fund, I've already proposed something in writing to the relevant cabinet members. So if that could be looked at again, that would be appreciated.
All right, thank you for that. All right, Caroline, who else has got their hand up?
I can't put my hand up, Chair, but I'd like to.
Right, go on, Councillor Boyle.
Well, I just agree with everything that's been said. I really appreciate the comments you made, and I totally agree with you, Sue. I think that the last neighbourhood forums weren't working great. We didn't get attendance. This is really good community engagement moving forward. And the fact that we'd get a named officer and a devolved budget, I think it's an excellent way to moving forward and engaging the community in what we do and making decisions about our town. So I think it's a really good change.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Sorry, Sue, my hand won't go up.
All right, go on, Teresa.
I think what's come across really, really strong here is we all want the same thing, don't we? We all want something different, because the way we're doing it at the moment isn't working, and it isn't a criticism of the chair or the way anything is set up or anything like that. We just know from previous experiences a better way to do this, don't we? So really, really positive, and the fact that we're talking about budgets that we're in control of and things like that. I understand for me in Ardenshire, and I'm sure Nick will feel the same, we would love to always have a meeting every time in Ardenshire, but understand that as we're just one town on our own, that that probably won't be possible. So I do welcome the fact that we will have our own designated officer that will be working with us, and just ask that if we are put with other towns, that it does move round, and Ardenshire has its own time somewhere along the municipal year when a meeting is held in Ardenshire. But other than that, I think it's really, really positive and a great way forward. I think,
well, can I just come in? I mean, Teresa, if you remember the district assemblies, We always moved around.
We did, yeah.
So we made it fair to the, you know, to the people out there, that they could come to different areas, and it worked.
It was great, and they were always so well attended, weren't they? So with our partners and community groups coming in was great. You know, real celebration at lots of them as well. Mike,
right, go on, Mike.
Just to support what Councillor Newton said earlier on, I mean, the district assemblies I thought really worked, and we had a connection with the officer in the day of Stuart Mollinson and the young Nick Sayers, and it worked because they were specifically for Denton, you know, the Denton District Assembly, and it worked because you had that contact, so you would deal specifically with that issue, and it worked really well. And I mean, the only downside of a district assembly is sometimes you get people who try to take it over, don't you? And we've probably all got them sort of people who come and who are negative Nellies, and they never say anything positive about. But I think if we promote them a bit better, and we try to get the public involved, because obviously going around all the different parts of Denton is good, because obviously it raises our profile as local sort of politicians as well in different areas, and taking on what Councillor Newton said earlier on, I think it really did work, because I saw parts of Denton that I wouldn't normally come across, and listen to people who I wouldn't normally come across. So it helped me sort of get a full picture of you know, the whole area, and I think it works, and I think it's a good idea to go back to something that works. Thanks.
No, thank you for that, Mike. Anybody else got their hand up?
Just to echo what's been said, really, I think this is a positive way forward. So yeah, looking forward to seeing this. But yeah,
thank you for that, Nick. You're breaking up. You were breaking up. Have you finished, Nick?
Yeah. Sorry, we're having trouble.
No, you were breaking up.
Oh, right. I'll try turning my camera off, see if that helps.
Right. Have you finished with your question, Nick?
Yeah, sorry, it's just to say that no, it's supporting what's been said. I think it's positive developments, and like Teresa says, it'd be good to get it rotating around the different towns, and looking forward to seeing that.
Right, thank you for that, Nick. Is there any other councillors got any questions?
No, the hands raised, Chair.
Right, well, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for that report, Emma. I look forward to the changes on the next stage of the plan. Right, can we move on to item 5? But you taking us through this, Tom, aren't you? The council plan and annual business plan.
Yes, Chair, thank you. So hopefully you've all had a chance to read through the draft plan that came out with the agenda. And as it states, is the council plan is our new 5-year plan, and it sets out the organisational priorities and how those will contribute to the delivery of the borough strategy. It was developed using the same evidence base through which we developed the borough strategy, but obviously is more focused on what we as a local authority can deliver. So it shares a vision with the borough strategy. So Tameside Together, great place for all. But where the borough strategy is obviously a partnership plan for Tameside, the council plan looks to describe how that applies for the council. And so just talk about people, place and prosperity and our contribution to those. So it's that sort of intrinsic link to the borough strategy. The plan then highlights some successes from recent years, again, grouped under those people, place and prosperity banners. But it's sort of provided in the context that we're still in the middle of a transformation journey, and there's obviously still work to do before we identify some headline priorities for the 5-year lifetime of the plan. In the document, you'll see they're broken down by directorate. and it's obviously not every activity that they're going to be doing over the course of the 5 years, but just those headline proposals that will then drive a series of work programs underneath those. And again, as I've mentioned before, there was pulled together from that comprehensive evidence base, from the bits of consultation we've done, the conversations we've had with you and others, and the data that's informed that content. In terms of how we'll monitor progress against the plan, there'll be an annual year in review using the suite of success measures that you'll see further down in the plan document. And then in terms of next steps, this document's also going to Cabinet next week, and it will go to Council for sign-off. But again, keen to have your feedback on the content now and over the next month or so before we finalise something to go to Council. Behind that sits the annual business plan, which I don't think has come to neighbourhood forums before, as far as I'm aware, certainly none of the ones that I've been involved with. So hopefully good to see. So we build up the performance monitoring, and it sets out a detailed set of milestones for each directorate. So really, this is where some of that detail I mentioned before sits on the bit sort of level below the plan. And these are 1 year business plans. So it's what they're going to be delivering over the next 12 months, and also has, again, those key performance metrics. The business plan's also got some quite useful detail about the different business units that you'll see under each directorate and their broad responsibilities, in case anybody's unclear. And it sets to be a really important bridge from our perspective between the borough strategy and the council plan, and then team and individual plans. So it's that, we keep saying this, golden thread, so that individual officers understand their role, what their work contributes to the team plan, to the directorate plan, and then up through to the council plan and borough strategy. So it's a really integral part of that. So these business plans will be widely promoted within the council, and really will hopefully form parts of team meetings and individual my performance conversations. So again, progress for each directorate will be reported against both the performance indicators and deliverables quarterly, and that goes through scrutiny and then up through Cabinet as well. So that's it for me on that, Chair. Thank you.
Right, thank you for that, Tom. Have we got any questions for Tom? Carolyn, anybody got their hand up?
No hands raised, Chair. No questions from the public.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Tom. It's a very powerful presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so thank you for attending. Thank you. Right. Next item is date of the next meeting. And I'd just like, go on, Carolyn.
Sorry, I was just about to say that the dates did go to council earlier on this month for consultation, and the final dates will be going to annual council in May.
Right. Yeah. Right. Thank you for that. Right, I'd like to thank all the officers and members for attending the meeting this evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks, Chair.